Thank you everybody for coming out today. I want to thank Chris McCarty for the mellow guitar work. Thank you, Chris. My name is Tony Burke, and I'm Jonathan's uncle, and I'm going to be kind of functioning as the moderator here. I have a speaking part today, as do a few other people, and I'll go ahead and start, and then I will introduce them and bring them up, and we'll enjoy our celebration here. Oh wait, first, for those of you who may be wondering what's up with all the pink and what's up with all the tuxedos, if you didn't read your program, there's a little bit of it in there, but they wanted to make sure that I covered that for the uninitiated. The pink comes from a quote from the movie Mean Girls. There's a line in there, on Wednesdays we wear pink, or we wear pink on Wednesdays. You can get shirts online with either iteration of that. Jonathan liked that movie, and he ran with that quote. And he promoted it within the Biba school, and it kind of caught on with the faculty there. The tux thing, teachers were required to wear shirt and tie. And Jonathan didn't like to wear a shirt and tie. And I can add that I wore a shirt and tie for 20 years, and I hated it too. So I'm totally on board with what he did, which was to get the tuxedo shirt and wear that in lieu of the traditional shirt and tie. Way to go, Jonathan. He particularly liked the tux with the bow tie rather than the traditional Windsor knot tie. So that's where the bow tie thing comes in. So for you all now, all mysteries are explained. Now, my speaking part. Hold this. As I said, Jonathan was my nephew, which is to say that I knew him for a long period of time, but regrettably, I did not know him as well probably as many of you here did. In fact, after reading social media and seeing tribute after tribute after tribute from John's friends, John's former students, John's students, that is the point at which I actually gained an insight as to who he truly was. Jonathan was a teacher, which is a mentor for young people. I remember him as a young tyke, maybe 4 or 5 years old. He was happy, he was inquisitive, he was slightly mischievous. He always seemed a little shy around me, which probably speaks more to my personality than to his. That had to do to our significant age difference. I'm not going to tell you what that is, but it is significant. I can say that as a teenager, Jonathan sometimes annoyed me, but I am certain that I sometimes annoyed him. So I think that's kind of healthy in any family dynamic, would you say? What I have always known, though, Jonathan was always loyal and fiercely protective of his family. His family was his rock. His family was his foundation. I have since learned that he had a great capacity to lend perspective and meaning to the lives of the people that he chose to be his friends. What I have come to know now was just how much that Jonathan was loved and respected. After Jonathan graduated from Gainesville High School, it seemed that I saw less of him at family gatherings. But I was very pleased when I learned that he had earned a college degree and had gotten a job with the University of Florida's library system. And at the time I remember thinking, hey, good job, good benefits, pension, way to go. So I was a little surprised thereafter when I had heard he was leaving Gainesville to teach. But I was happy for him because I too work in education, and I know that for some people teaching is more than a profession, it's a calling. I was delighted and somewhat proud when a couple of years later I heard that he had been selected as his school's Teacher of the Year. Now, for those of you who don't work in the education field, I can tell you this is a big deal. This is a huge deal. I am on the committee that selects our district's Teacher of the Year, another county from here, and I'm always very impressed with the resumes and with the observations of this caliber of educator. I was always left with a feeling of, wow, I wish that I had had a teacher like that when I was in school. And my impression from the tributes, again, that I've read from his former students is that, indeed, Jonathan was that kind of teacher. He was that teacher you would always remember. He was that teacher you would say, wow, I'm glad I had him as a teacher. Teachers possess certain qualities. They're observant, they're articulate. They have the ability to relate what they see to others, and the ability to kindle passion for learning among young people. As simple as that may sound, it is true that the advancement of mankind will depend upon nurturing of people who have a high quality and diverse range of talents. To this end, we must have high quality education, which in turn depends on teachers of high caliber and professionalism. If teachers are not personally given to learn and to excel, to aspire to push forward the boundaries of human civilization, then our society's outlook is not so bright. Jonathan was about 3 years old when the tragedy that happened to the Space Shuttle Challenger reminded us that pushing forward these boundaries is fraught with some challenges. Among those who had joined the Challenger expedition into space was a teacher named Krista McCullough. She was chosen to be the first civilian in space because she was the best teacher in the land and was selected by the president, and because she has the most direct impact on our next generation. Tragically, as we all know, the space shuttle exploded not long after its launch. Nevertheless, the memory of Krista McCullough has remained etched upon our psyche forever. Her passion for exploration and vision for advancing knowledge is regarded as iconic. Prior to her mission, she was asked why she participated in the space program. Her confident response was, "I am a teacher. Every day through my students, I touch the future." Those illuminating remarks by Krista McCullough highlight the influence of education on the future is eternal, and the genesis for that influence is the teacher. Now, I did not know Krista McCullough. I never met her, but just as she accepted her mission and demonstrated a will to experiment, so I think did Jonathan. I see parallels between the two. Obviously, both were teachers. Obviously, both were taken from us far too early, and both of them were explorers. Schools can be found in every village and city in the land, yet Jonathan could have taught anywhere. His mission, if you will, was to teach in China. I can only guess as to why he chose to teach there. I have searched my memory and found no hints that would indicate this was going to happen. During the last few holidays we spent together, he and I did not share any deep, in-depth conversations, but I did observe him interacting with his friends and family members. I witnessed an easiness and comfort about him. It was obvious to me that he had found his niche. He had achieved some satisfaction in his life, and he was happy. As I've said, Jonathan was a teacher. That is how he defined himself. That is who he was. If before I had previously only known him as a good guy, I now have learned that he will be evolved into a truly great person. It has been said that the brightest light burns half as long, and that would be an appropriate metaphor to characterize Jonathan's all too brief stay here on planet Earth. Just as each of us was affected by his life, so also has his untimely passing affected us. It has been a month now, and it still seems surreal. His loss will not be something that will easily just get over. Each of us mourns the loss of Jonathan in our own way, but today, let us not dwell on the tragedy of his passing. Rather, let us celebrate this brightest of lights that represents the life of a devoted son and brother, the wonderful nephew, the amazing teacher, the loyal friend, and the incredible person that he was. Thank you. Okay, our next speaker will be Bo Tavares. Bo met Jonathan in Jacksonville through Toby Vargas, who I will introduce later, and they became friends, and you're on, Bo. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Hello, my name is Bo Tavares. I'm a friend of Jonathan. I've never been asked to speak at an event like this, so this is completely foreign to me. I consider this an incredible honor, so thank you. I just want to make sure whatever I say that Jonathan would be proud. So I'll start with a quote. As humans, we waste the crap out of our words. It's sad. We use words like awesome and wonderful, like they're candy. It was awesome? Really? It inspired awe? It was wonderful? Are you serious? It was full of wonder? You used the word amazing to describe a sandwich at Wendy's. What's going to happen in your wedding day when your first child is born? How will you describe it? You've already wasted the word amazing on a sandwich. This quote was written by Louis C.K. and was obviously cleaned up a bit in order for me to read it out loud. I didn't know it was going to fit in here. Coincidentally, Louis C.K. was a comedian Jonathan really liked. In fact, he made me listen to him in his car for an extended period of time with him. I remember it was probably the second time I'd ever heard Louis C.K.'s material. And I remember every time he said something funny, Jonathan would laugh so hard, squeezing his face together as if it would explode. Shaking his head back and forth and saying, "It's so true," about how Louis would describe people in a colorful manner. Needless to say, I could not stop laughing. I would have to describe Louis C.K.'s material as the type of humor Jonathan and I shared. There's something quite wonderful about having an outlet like our conversations with the ability to talk about anything at all, no matter how inappropriate, honest, blunt, or incredibly strange at any point of the day or night. I first met Jonathan through Toby Vargas, and honestly, I didn't get him at all. I would often say to Toby, "I hope you have fun with your friends." What I learned over time hanging out with Jonathan and talking to him more is that underneath that honest and sometimes brutal humor was an incredible person. I would describe him as Jonathan was thought-provoking. Jonathan was always challenging my thoughts or ideas, even when it wasn't solicited. I firmly believe he just liked to challenge me to get a rise out of me, not because he actually thought differently than me. It was just his way. He knew it bugged me, and when he succeeded in pushing my buttons, he would laugh hysterically. Then I would laugh because he loved me. It was impossible not to. It was inspiring to see how much he challenged himself personally and professionally. Jonathan was dedicated. I never understood where he obtained his never-ending amounts of energy between the long hours working and get different jobs in Jacksonville and in St. Augustine. And then he would go have drinks afterwards. He almost had to go because he felt lazy if he didn't go. And maybe he knew that. One of his greatest qualities is how he always wanted to spend time with his friends. He was always very curious about what we had going on in our lives and what we were doing. Jonathan was adventurous. I think we can all say with confidence how brave he was just for putting himself out there for new experiences. How many of us would feel comfortable traveling across the world like he did? He loved checking out new places and meeting new people. Again, I'll go back to the energy topic. He would be in China, in a different time zone, and still manage to send me a message during the times when I was awake. I think we can all take a note from that type of thing. In my opinion, people like Jonathan are very rare. I would even go as far as to say that Jonathan was truly awesome, wonderful, and amazing. I'm deeply privileged to have known him, and I miss him a lot. I'll conclude with another quote that reminded me of something Jonathan would say. "I'm bored" is a useless thing to say. I mean, we live in a great, big, vast world that you've seen none percent of. Even in the inside of your own mind is endless. It goes on forever, inward. Do you understand? The fact that your life is amazing, so you don't get to say I'm bored.
Our next speaker is Lauren Scher. I hope I said that right.
Yes.
Okay. Lauren has been described as much like Jonathan's sister. So with that,
Hello, I'm Lauren. I'm Jonathan's honorary sister. I could spend hours up here talking about how wonderful of a person he was. He was smart, funny, incredibly kind, witty. His entertainment skills were nothing short of amazing. Those of us that had the honor of being Facebook friends with him experienced the brilliance of the man Jonathan was. Here are a few of my favorite Facebook clips. Dear iPhone, I am never trying to spell ducky. I want to date Jake from State Farm. He is cute, has a good job. Best of all, he works at night, so I would get the bed to myself. Priorities are important. I've learned in my 30s that when my friends tell me they're pregnant, I'm not supposed to ask, what are you gonna do? Pornography gives young people an unrealistic, unhealthy idea of how quickly a plumber will come to your house. The Middle East. How do we stop ISIS? Africa. How do we stop the kidnappings of mass amounts of people? Europe. How do we save our economy? China. Can we stop the pollution? America. What color is this dress? Never let anyone treat you like the yellow scrubbers. You're pink scrubbers. This is when he was in China. All you people that have a Publix in your life, you need to go see them today and tell them how much you love them and don't ever want to be without them. Whatever person at the gas station, you act like you've never seen an elf pump gas before. This is over Christmas time. This is just how witty his students were. So he definitely rubbed up on them. Me, why isn't your project here? Student, I went to print it last night at 9, but they were out of ink. Me, okay, where were you earlier in the day? Student, we went out on the boat. Me, okay, and what do you think I feel about going on the boat when your project isn't done? Student, that you wish you were on the boat. Out running this first morning and it feels so good. I mean, there are people out running and it feels good that I'm in my car. And this is just to show how wonderful of a man he was. You may only be someone in the world, but to someone else, you may be the world. And then I'm going to read his last paragraph of his It Gets Better post. He wrote this in April 19th, 2011. This is just the end of it. Long story, well, I guess it's too late, short. This is where I am now. I am happy, I am real, and I am me. Do I still have some work to do? Of course, he doesn't. It has only been a year, and I have a lot of catching up to do with myself. It gets better. I have gotten better. I am better. Jonathan, your sparkle and charm will be missed. You provided as many laughs as there are stars in the sky. So return to them now, and we will all look up and smile. Abraham Lincoln once said, in the end, it's not the years in your life that count, it's the life in your years. And Jonathan, be sure we're feeling that way.
Thank you, Lauren. Our next speaker is Lisa Tatum. Lisa met John through work at the UF Center for Library Automation and is a friend now to John's mother, Linda. Linda is a grandmother figure to Lisa's son. Okay? So, Lisa, you're welcome.
All right. I wasn't going to be nervous, but I guess I am. So I wrote this about one of my favorite teachers, Jonathan. So I met Jonathan in about 1998. He was still in high school, and I was working at UF. But I was working in the building next door to his high school. So, kind of cool. He was in a little magnet program. He would have these little health fairs and stuff. And